minutes talking about consumer marketing in the age of programmatic tools and technologies. And I think we have, even in the title of this discussion, the brand trading desk, a provocative new term to add to the lexicon of confusing acronyms. Briefly, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of DataXu. DataXu is a software company that sells its software to brands and agencies. We are, 30-second ad, I suppose, the fastest growing company in advertising and marketing, having grown 21,000% over the last 4 years, according to Inc. magazine, which is because of the use of data and analytics to make media more efficient, effective, and easier. It's just by way of clarification, we do sell our software to any and all comers, including publishers. But the idea behind it is that it's it is a technology, and you pay us just technology fees. So there's really no interest in the media or the data. And Ben, I'd love to just briefly introduce with some numerology of the rule of twos, I suppose. The first two is that, we'll go with the big numbers first. Almost 2 billion MasterCard cardholders. Yep. I think over 20,000 banks and merchants who issue the card, and 200 countries. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Big growing business like yours. Not quite as, the growth rate's not quite as fast as yours, but still growing pretty fast for a 45-year-old company.
That's right.
And still be growing double digits. It's kind of hard to do that as a 45-year-old company.
That's right. And some very recent impressive figures, which I've heard from my colleagues, although I'm not sure. Do you want to share a couple?
No, I mean, business is good. We're still, for a 45-year-old company, we're still growing, we're still growing double digits, which is, even in developed markets, which is pretty rare. We benefit from a lot of the things that we're talking about today. We're technology, e-commerce, how we're trying to how people are moving into new new economies. Obviously helps our business, because as hard as you try, you can't put your your euro coin into that USB port. So as long as there's growth in e-commerce business, then we're gonna grow nicely.
Great. Well, let's take it from a top line and to the consumer. Let's start there. So. Love to get your perspective. How do you view, the new sort of digital lifestyle, consumer behavior? What changes is that causing in your world, and how do you guys think about that strategically?
I think in general, it enables us a lot more than we used to, because once upon a time, we used to be all about building a really strong brand. For the first 40 years of our, for the last 15 years, we've been blessed with having a great advertising tagline, and we pretty much drove awareness. So I think that the Priceless campaign, which is in 100 advertised in 110 countries and 53 languages, or some facts like that. So it was great for. I mean, it did a great job of building our brand awareness. Now, as we're trying to evolve from growing brand awareness, because it's already pretty high, thankfully, to making the cash register ring, then the digital age really helps us, because it helps us. A, it helps us drive information better. B, it helps us have a more engaging consumer experience, because we're working really hard at trying to engage consumers in ways that we never did before, rather than just a one-way. We're going to show you a beautiful TV ad on that big giant screen. We're much more diverse than we used to be.
So we've talked a little bit about the sort of duality, if you like, of even the presentations this morning. The first one sort of on big data, the second one on sort of these one-of-a-kind conversations occurring. The left brain, the right brain. Tell us more about how you think about those two, seemingly disparate objectives.
Yeah, I think it is kind of the yin and the yang. I think that, and I was just at another conference in the States the last couple of weeks. I mean, everybody's talking about one or two things.
The ANA, right?
The Association of National Advertisers, which is a big trade group in the U.S. And everybody's talking about two things. They're either talking about programmatic buying, or they're talking about consumer engagement. And in some cases, I mean, if you have a little Venn diagram, they are sort of connected together, but they really are two things that we're really, really focused on. And I think that heretofore, the industry has treated them a little bit differently, and I know there's opportunities to driving consumer engagement and drive video through programmatic. But I think most of the business, half of your business, I think it's probably higher for what you'd say your competitive set. And most of programmatic now is kind of to help drive efficiencies and help.
Right, and the IAB display units was sort of sort of a relatively simple palette in a lot of ways.
Yep. So on one end of the spectrum, you have programmatic and the interest in making, driving more, optimizing our investments more. And then on the other hand, it's driving more consumer engagement. How can we How can we engage with consumers and into a deeper, richer experience? And we spend a lot of energy trying to reach consumers in relevant environments, because the thought would be, if I reach you and impact you in a relevant environment, if I'm a sports guy, so if you reach me in a sports environment, get me to use my card when I'm going to a football game, then I'm going to use my card for everything else. So we spend a lot of energy. A lot of that's in developing content around that. Whether it be around music or sports or shopping or culinary and those passion points. And then at the same time, we're really trying to drive, we really have to drive value on, we have to optimize our investments. No marketer in this building this week has, enough money, as much money as they want to have. So
do more with less, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's back up a little bit. So programmatic, it'd be great to have your definition of the term. It's great that there is a term referring to this, whatever this is, but what, how would you define it? I want to hear, how would you define it, and also what's the benefit to MasterCard or any other brand, in your opinion?
I would just define it as, I don't have a big formal definition, just automated trading. I think the benefit is a cost-driven benefit. There's just so much digital inventory out there today, whether it be the display space or the video space. There's seemingly an infinite amount of inventory. I know there's not an infinite amount of inventory, but it seems like it. So when you look at move away from, and we are a little bit of a yin and yang, because we do buy a fair amount of premium business when we're trying to use our
sort of deep
drive our relevance.
And
we have a lot of
content.
Yeah, we do a lot of that stuff with media partners. But so programmatic gives us the opportunity to kind of offset that and really kind of drive value. So we're testing, learning, exploring, and we found it to be a huge, programmatic's a huge driver to help us save money from just, buying, display that we used to.
Have you been able to quantify that? We have customers, I'm thinking of a large U.S. packaged goods company who sort of quantified it at a 25% efficiency gain from just sort of using these tools. Is that been something you've been able to quantify, so, black and white terms?
Well, I mean, it's difficult because we buy so much premium. The premium stuff that we buy is kind of closely connected to sponsorships and things like that, and really trying to get into the whole editorial experience. I would say our efficiency gap between that is probably even greater, because we're buying, for the stuff that we buy with our deeper, richer media partnerships, we are buying,
the run of
we're
networks,
buying the cream of the cream. Yeah, if we were buying run of networks, I could see it being in the 25% range. Ours is actually, the dichotomy is probably even wider, but and it's what we try to manage, because we're on the other side, we're really trying to buy so much premium, really cool premium stuff to kind of tie with media partnerships. So on the other side, we really have to be aggressive about trying to drive value, if that makes any sense.
It does, it does. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the industry. It seems like there's a lot of, you mentioned the ANA, where I know there was a lot of chatter about, sort of how is the ecosystem changing? What's the role of the agency of record? What is the sort of status with agency trading desks? You're an interesting brand because you've sort of had a lot of experience doing various ways of programmatic, and love to get your perspective on, sort of what does the journey look like? What's your perspective on sort of the agency role, the technology company role, the trading desk role, and sort of what does the future look like? Where does it all wind up?
I think that, I mean, the number of, the space, the gap, the land between an advertiser and a media owner is still, there's still too many detours and too many, if it's a puzzle, there's still too many. There's still too many intermediaries, and in some cases, I mean, they play. Everybody plays a necessary role, and I'm not saying that there aren't, that every aspect doesn't have a role, but there's just too many. I think that last week somebody presented a study that said something like 30 cents of every dollar that leaves a marketer's hand gets to a media publisher, because all that space in between, that 70, that other 70% goes to everybody, including, obviously we have to pay, partners to manage our work, but whether that be everybody from agency to trading desk to DSPs to supply side platforms to data providers, and we don't, in a lot of cases we don't, buy a lot of data because we have a fair amount of our own data, but I mean, 30 cents on the dollar seems like, it seems like not a lot to get in the hands of the media owners. So we're really trying to push harder at how do we try to make that simplified, just so we don't drive ourselves crazy, because it's too many steps in the process, and also simplify it and be able to drive some more, drive value into that and try to get, make it more direct relationship, making a more direct relationship.
So you hear this word a lot, transparency, which is, I guess, an existing concern in the media world, and then programmatic seems only to exacerbate the concern in some ways because it's just unclear what's going on here. And I keep waiting for the day when people just say, whatever you do, like what is the value you add? Just speak up. What is it? And so, but for you, I mean, how do you parse through that without spending all day trying to decipher it?
I mean, those Lunascape charts, and we've probably all seen those Lunascape charts, which just scare the hell out of everybody because it's just like so many companies in that mix. It's really
they call
trying
that the colloquial term is the vomit chart. It looks like
I mean, it's scary to think about that. So I mean, for us it is, and me and my group, and a group of some I think everybody in my group who runs a region has got agency experience. So we've all sort of been on the other side. I mean, transparency is a big deal. We don't have enough people. We have about 5 or 6 subject matter experts in my team. One person in Europe, a couple people in the States, one person in Latin America. We don't have enough people to be able to.
You're not doubling your staff just to be able to figure out digital marketing?
Can't do it. We can't. In order to, we still need our agency partners to help us manage the relationship the same way they manage everything else. So for us, transparency is a big deal. When you move from being an agent to being a principal, we have a problem with that. So, so we are trying to find ways to, I mean, the agency has a very clear role in helping us, being our agent. And that's kind of within the original, aspect of what they
charter,
did.
Yeah.
That's, the original charter. And I think that as we move, and last year I was at this same event, the Festival of Media, I sat on I chaired the awards jury, and one of the gentlemen from an agency said agencies need to move from controlling everything to orchestrating everything. And I thought that was really well said because, and I'm giving him credit for it, not me, because I'm not that creative. Because the agencies really do need to, I mean, there's an important role, and no marketer has enough people to be able to, cover all the aspects of this by ourselves. I have no interest in, I hear marketers that said, like, we're going to bring all of our buying in-house. I have zero interest in doing that. We just don't have enough people. We don't, I mean, agencies are the experts. We need our experts. We need our experts to kind of be, we put a lot of value in, they're independent. We need them to keep being independent. So we looked at that. We looked at that, kind of importantly as to, trying to, get more, transparency.
That's right. And you recently went through a review process. I know, and I'm curious. I'd love to ask you what trust. Is trust? I've heard it from somebody. Again, I won't claim credit, but in a land of abundance and abundant option, actually the scarce commodity is becoming trust. Does that resonate for you?
No, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, it's not. It wasn't a trust issue. I mean, it's.
I'm not referring to your agency, but
in
general,
I mean, I think
who can you trust?
Yeah, but I think we need to have somebody to. I mean, again, the whole independence and the whole, knowing that.
Are you a player
the agent's
or are
not
you a referee?
You made the point, player or referee earlier today. I like that one too. I mean, you just need to have. We need to have the comfort level that that our partners are serving our interests and our interests only. And if you're a principal and an agent at the same time, it's kind of difficult to do
confusing,
that. Yeah, so it's just hard to rationalize that.
Well, let's. We, by the way, are going to save some time at the end here for questions. So everybody be thinking about what question you're going to ask Ben, and I may call on you just to get everyone's brain going. Yeah. Okay. I want to shift gears. I want to talk about people.
Yep.
I think it was the second speaker today, Xing, who talked about. Actually, it was the gentleman from Group M who said, honestly, we're struggling to get the right people.
That was interesting.
I'd like to talk about that.
Yep.
So I've heard it said by others that, look, I mean, there's really a lot of transformation efforts going on right now in the corporate marketing department. When you use the word transformation, it's a big word. Well, there's people, there's process, there's products, but actually of all these things, sort of people may be one of the most challenging.
Yep.
So how are you dealing with the sort of changing needs and skill sets of the people to drive MasterCard into the future in this crazy world? I mean,
the first driver, the first reality for us is we don't have a huge amount of, I can't just say the market's more complex, so I'm going to double my staff. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I wish I could.
Your CEO's not buying that one?
No, he's not at all. So, I mean, we have a fixed group, and I happen to have a great group, not because some of them are sitting in the room, but I do have a great group of people.
There's no people problem here. Let's just clarify that in the room.
No, but I do. I think the people opportunity for us is how we rely upon partners. Right? We rely upon our agencies. We rely upon our media owners. We rely upon other partners. So it's how do we cobble together that puzzle?
So that's part of the vendor value prop. And what? Let me press on that a little bit. What are some of the the skill sets or experience sets that you're really looking for as you look ahead to sort of supplement what you have built internally?
I mean, I think it's expertise in space that we're investing in. I mean, I think in some cases we have some partners who are working in very specialized space in social media. We have some partners who are working in very specialized, who are starting to work with in the programmatic buying space. We have other partners, other traditional agency partners who are working kind of sort of overall managing the whole media program and things like that. So it's more finding expertise in areas that are unique, and not only unique, that they need unique skills and they need to have expertise, but there are areas that we're gonna invest in. Content's one of those as well. I mean, David talked about it today. I mean, the need to have content strategies and be able to deliver content. That's where we rely upon a lot on in some cases media partners, in some cases other third parties to do that. But it's more expertise and needs that we have rather than try to find a person who can kind of be all things to all people. The same way we can't expect our agencies to do that, we can't expect people to do that either.
So does that change the sort of mandate a little bit for the agency? Because if I hear you correctly, I need, as your agency of record, for instance, to be an orchestrator of these various platforms and technologies and people. I may or may not have the specific expertise you need in category number 12.
Yep.
And so what does an agency of record need to do differently to sort of be a great service provider?
I think it's
I mean, again, you've just gone through a review, so it seems like these would be fresh on
your mind.
I
think that part of it is the open-mindedness to know that, just because you're not placing every single piece of activity, because again, with all respect to I don't know of a single agency who can claim to be an expert in every single one of the spaces that you need to have expertise today. It's just not, it's almost not physically possible.
Right.
And, Dominic talked about it a little bit today, and I think his points kind of get to you can't be experts in everything. So having sort of the open mind and more the collaborative, not just collaborating with us, the clients, because that's easy to collaborate with the people that are writing you a check. That's, people have figured that out. But kind of collaborating with
sort of
independent,
horizontally.
Collaborating horizontally, whether it be the creative agencies or whether it be other. I mean, this is kind of an extension of the same way that some partners will collaborate better in the traditional environment. Some media agencies will play in a sandbox better with the creative agency and the digital agency. This is the same thing, only blown up, tenfold of, in all the different, different expertise space. I mean, so having the open mind and the ability to collaborate with people and not feel threatened, is key to probably a lot of marketers. Because I'm not alone in not having more people that we can just kind of add to the mix.
Absolutely. Well, so MasterCard's a data-driven business, ton of transaction information, and right in the firmament of commercial society around the world. So you guys are expert at that. I'm curious, when you have a series of marketing services and technologies partners, one of the questions I hear is how does the sort of data that's generated or used sort of repatriate and come together in some place? So are you finding that a challenge as you work across partners? Or is there a sort of a data vendor or orchestrator of record? Is that a for that matter, is that a role for the agency to play?
Yeah, we don't have an orchestrator of record. That's a good point. I think that in our business, and again, our business might be a little bit unique because it is so data driven in a bunch of different aspects of the organization. I don't know if it's beyond marketing communication, so it's probably not.
Right.
It depends on the company. In our world, it's not the agency's job because it extends. Data in our world extends way beyond marketing communications into
and that's
customers
a core
and how we
competency
work with
of the
our
firm.
customers and cardholders and things like that. Yeah, I mean it's a core competence. We can always do better than we do. There's always challenges, but yeah, I mean orchestrating all that. I mean, again, it kind of gets to orchestration of how do we. It's easier. It's easier to measure, but it makes it's a higher demand to measure now too, because it's kind of like you ran out of excuses to say
you get the measurement staring
you
in
sort
the
of
face all the time.
You sort of have to measure differently than you did before. So I think working with the agency again is not going to own that process, but working with all the different partners, everything you do has to have kind of a measurement thread on the back of it, or otherwise it's we're not really kind of driving our value.
That's great. Well, I have one more question for you, then we're going to open it up. But and this one is a bit of a can of worms, but we talk about sort of efficiency and programmatic and what have you, and then you talk about engagement and these sort of very dueling goals, if you like. We in this industry of so I'm a technologist. We talk a lot about targeting, and we talk about a millisecond latency times and a million this or a million that or a terabyte of this or that. talk to me about engagement for a sec. And the question in particular is, how do you, when I see the native advertising things and these brilliant sort of conversations, I always wonder to myself, how would I actually scale that? I can do award-winning work, but it may touch 10 or 100 people. So how do I actually get a broader footprint in having that sort of conversation? So is there, in some ways, programmatic's helped with scale.
Yep.
But then, how do you kind of think about the scale problem in having these deeper, more personal conversations?
I think part of it has to do with the strategy of how you're delivering content. If you buy into the whole, there are creators, there are curators, and then there are the public that kind of, the 1-9-90 rule. It did sound overly simplified. There are, depending upon the strategy, we've created pieces of content. And again, some of it, you don't do this all the time, but we've created some piece of content that got millions of, they've gotten millions of social media views in very short periods of time because it was cool content, it was relevant, and it was kind of in the cultural sphere. We did We did some stuff around the Brits with, if anybody's in the UK and saw some of the social media we did around the Brits with some of the music celebrities. We're a sponsor of the Brits. We did some things around music celebrities and priceless surprises, which really drove a lot of social engagement.
Just doesn't happen as an aside. So that's a really cool execution.
Yep. Doesn't happen every single time.
What was the business outcome from that, right? Because I'm going to play your CEO. That's cool.
Yep.
Love it. Good job. Did we get some more cards and transactions out of that?
Any one of it. Our business is pretty hard, and it sounds like a cop-out, like I'm measuring properly.
Yeah.
Our business is pretty complex. We have customers, whether they be merchants, whether they be issuers. It's really hard to drive a
cause-effect sort of relationship.
Yeah, it's a little hard to do that on a short-term basis, right?
Should I see it compound over time, or how
So we look at things like we measure things about we will measure the people. We'll measure the amount of exposure people have with our brand, and the more exposure people have with our brand, they will have materially better feelings about our company. Right. So and
that correlates to usage.
And ultimately, there are other benchmarks, and it is a little bit of we've cobbled together. It's not as
some proxies for
success.
Yeah,
it's not linear and empirical, but we've kind of built those proxies of success. So there is, but it's a long road, right? It's a long grind to get there in our business because our business is pretty mature. There's a lot of stakeholders. It gets kind of hard to do that, but we are working hard at kind of driving engagement because we've proven that engagement makes people feel better about the brand, which isn't just, and it's not just a consumer action either. It's a business action.
Sure.
By some of our programs, we've gotten, we get customers, merchant banks or issuing banks or merchants excited about it, and that drives the business too. Because it's still at the end of the day, it's to a large degree in our business, it's still a B2B component of an issuing bank wanting to work with us more than they do now.
So brand sentiment matters.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're always going to be driving. Again, we're a bit, talk about yin and yang and before about programmatic and driving engagement. We're always going to be about driving a strong brand, and we're always going to be about trying to get people to swipe their cards more.
Right.
Because we can't do
Reminding
one.
them.
We can't do one without the other.
Yep.
But from a brand perspective, it's as much a B2B play as it is anything else, because we have to have a strong brand, or the issuing banks will won't be as fun.
So you've got two constituencies.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, good. Fascinating conversation. We could go all day, but since we have a room full of you here, bright, inquiring minds, I thought it would be good to hear from you. So raise your hand if you've got a question, and identify yourself as well, please.
So I'm Cathy Robert-Fromm, I'm the Secretary General of an association called ECTA. It's the trade body for television and radio broadcasters across Europe. You said, if I understood you right, that you're very interested still in premium partnerships and premium content and developing these media partnerships. Can you put a date as to when you see that being sold programmatic? If ever. Or is it display mainly and maybe a bit of online video inventory? But
I think it's, I'm reluctant to kind of put media kind of into the box of, there are some that will, and I'm walking around to see if they're in this room. I don't think they're in the room. There's some that will speak later on today about having, 50% of all the business, even broadcast business, will be programmatic by next year. I still think it depends on the relationship. Again, we're moving from, in our environment, in a lot of cases, not every single case, we're spending a lot. Our big investments, our big bets in our big countries are not just buying 30-second spots anymore. It's about having our media partners, the TV stations, the radio stations, creating content for us. So they're creating content for us. We're finding ways to distribute it. In some cases, their social media platform's bigger than our social media platform. They're helping us distribute it. It's not a simple. It's no longer a simple transaction.
Yeah,
it's not a simple transaction. It's not. I mean, we still care about reach and frequency, but it's not only about just buying enough GRPs to hit what our reach optimizer said. And again, that's not with every single piece of business. So I think that if media owners, the more media owners, well, let me say this, the more media owners can develop engaging products and work hard to integrate marketers into the content development, the more it will become, the slower it'll be to be, solely a programmatic, move into programmatic space. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes.
Chris Arman from TUI Travel. I was wondering, in terms of the insight that comes out of your data, how much of it is automated to feed back into performance loops, so of your programmatic activity, versus manual insights that come out to feed strategy, or just manual fixes to programmatic?
Good question. Don't know if I can answer that from a percentage basis. I haven't really looked at the analysis that way. We are doing both. I mean, we do, from our business, again, our business completely separately from using it for our own marketing communications. I mean, we are in the business of, we have a lot of data. We monetize that data. We use it. I mean, we do a fair amount. I mean, our own data does plug into programmatic solutions. I don't know if I could accurately say what % of it goes towards kind of the sustaining programmatic buying versus, fueling consumer insights or our customer insights. Never really thought about it that way. I could now I'll go think about it that way, but never really thought about it that way.
Well, it seems like a huge opportunity, and I mean, we have advertisers who, through their paid-owned earned media, if you just collected the interaction information, it's about 5 terabytes a day. So I mean, but again, who cares about the size of data? Really, like, what's its utility?
Oh, I know the contribution. If the question was, I don't think your question was, of all the activity we do, how much of it's paid, what % of it's paid on earned. Yeah, because that's pretty easy to.
Where's the data insight
that's really
coming
easy
from?
to pin down. To sit to say, of all the data, how much do we use for sustaining, optimizing our investments in things like programmatic versus insights? Yeah, no, I haven't thought about that. Sorry about that.
Do we have time for one last question? One quick one. Yes, sir.
Hello, Ben.
Oh, well.
Alan Fagan, ESPN. So I was at a conference last week when, I'm afraid this is about programmatic and transparency. So
You're in the right room for that, by the way. That's
Sir
good.
Martin's response to the question, which was directly about that, was saying it's equivalent to asking Google to give you their secret sauce for their logarithm. So he should not be asked to be transparent now. Do you have any sympathy for that response?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to answer it any other way, to start with. I mean, it's his business for openers. And there's, I mean, you hear a lot of things. I mean, I've heard people say, when you go to the supermarket, you don't ask the supermarket what did they pay for that gallon of milk. You just want to know what you're going to pay for that gallon of milk or that quart of milk. I mean, I don't consider Google the same type, with all respect. Hopefully, there's no Google people here who take it the wrong way. I don't consider Google's not an intimate brand partner who is orchestrating, ideally, my marketing communications investment like my agency is. So I wouldn't expect them to answer the question any other way, and I think the relationship's different because Google I think of more as, again, no disrespect to Google, take this in the spirit intended. They're a media partner. They're not meant.
They're a player, not a referee.
They're a player, not a referee. Yeah, I like that analogy.
It's kind of simple, right? I mean, I think we're sort of going round and round in a circle on this one as an industry, and it's, can you be both?
Right.
And that's probably how the question should be phrased. And maybe you can, but then clients have a choice. Which one do you want? And I think we'll see how this all settles out. But I think at least that's a clarifying question. Yep. So with that, Ben, thank you very much for the time, and thanks you all for coming.
For joining.